Dear listeners, I have so much to tell you, and I often don't know where to start. It seems the world doesn't want to admit that sometimes we make mistakes, and that sometimes the wrong person gets punished for something they didn't do. Not all of us have been personally affected, but many of us have been impacted by this reality. And I feel like it's my responsibility to share these stories with you and to tell you what I've learned about wrongful convictions. Welcome back to Wrongfully Yours, and today I'm joined once again by civil rights attorney Deborah Francois. In our last conversation, Deborah shared her incredible work on some notable wrongful conviction cases, like the case of Clifford Jones and the exonerations of Muhammad Aziz and Khalil Islam. Her dedication to justice and her willingness to confront the system's failures left a deep impression on me, and I wanted to seize the opportunity to continue this conversation. So today, we're doing just that. We're diving deeper into how cases come to her firm, the impossible choices lawyers face when evidence has disappeared, and the emotional toll of having to tell someone that there may be no legal path forward, even when you believe in their innocence. We also talk about public perceptions of wrongful convictions, the media's role in shaping those perceptions, and what justice really looks like after decades have been lost. So today, this is a conversation about perseverance, heartbreak, accountability, and the ongoing work to bring humanity back into a justice system that so often forgets the human beings at its core. So I'd like to welcome back Deborah to speak with us once again, or to continue speaking with us about her work in this incredibly complex and drawn out world of wrongful conviction work. And I think we touched on some really interesting points last time, and I'd love to carry this conversation on.
Thank you.
I think your work is just so fascinating. And so you were saying you're working now in a firm that you only do wrongful conviction work?
So I only do civil rights work, and wrongful conviction work is my main area of focus within the civil rights bucket that we work in.
Gotcha. So how do you get cases? Are clients writing to you, or are like innocence projects recruiting you, or what does that look like?
Yeah, there are a number of ways in which we get cases.
Okay.
One way, as you touched on, folks will just write to us directly, whether they're still incarcerated or they're out, either through on parole or whatever. They'll reach out to us. Sometimes we will get referrals through other firms, through other organizations. We'll partner with them. Sometimes family members are writing to us. So there are a whole bunch of ways in which we get our cases.
And how do you decide to take one on? Because I imagine you cannot take them all on.
Yeah. That's so there are a lot of factors that go into that as well. So number one, there's the more emotional part, I guess, or the mental part where you have to think, do I believe in this case? Do I believe in this person's innocence? Do I believe that this person was wrongfully convicted? Um, and that's mushier, for lack of a better word, to determine. But I think we're very good at listening to our gut. I think that bigger hurdles we have is one, just resources and capability. My
Sure.
firm, we're a small firm of 4 lawyers. So just the
Okay.
reality is we can't take all the cases that we would love to. And
Definitely.
yeah, we want to make sure that whatever case that we take on, we are able to give it our full attention. So we want to make sure we could do that. And then the third is just the reality of what other procedural hurdles or whatever exist. So, for example, there are times when people write to us and we believe have been wrongfully convicted. We believe they are innocent, but the case is so old, we can't get the documents. There are no
Uh,
witnesses alive. There's no way of just proving this case. And unfortunately, the reality is that with law, you need evidence. And if you
ugh.
don't have evidence, there's only so much you can go.
And that to me, again, not being a lawyer, so maybe I would see it differently if I was trained in law, but to look at something and go, okay, just because you can't follow the letter of the law doesn't mean it's not obviously wrong.
Yeah.
Like, take responsibility for your error because it's so glaringly obviously wrong.
Mhm.
But if you don't jump through all the legal hoops, then we can't do that, which to me is so frustrating. And how do you separate yourself from that? Because I'm sure you have to as an attorney.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking to have to be the bearer of bad news, to feel part of the system that let the person down.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, right. I mean, there are people who are screwed over by the system, screwed over by lawyers, screwed over by judges. And we've spent this whole time telling them we're different, but then we're like, oh, but my gosh, we have some obstacles that we just can't address, that we can't beat. Do you feel a lot of guilt? Do you do? It's hard not to. And it's hard not to be in this line of work and to have strong emotional ties to the case and to your client. But you have to find your ways to compartmentalize, because if you let all these emotions get to you too much, you're not going to be able to be as an effective advocate for your client.
Mm, sure. Yeah. I find it like that's heartbreaking for me if I was in that position to know or to all but conclusively know that somebody has been wrongfully convicted and be like, I know you've been there for 40 years, but there's no evidence left. There's no people to talk to. There's no, like there's no records. There's nothing. So we can't do anything for you. Sorry, you're going to have to stay here. Like, oh my God, I would never want to have that conversation.
Yeah.
That's just awful. So, on that note, and maybe just turning it a little bit, because I'm sure in your line of work, you deal with people who are a little bit of like wrongful conviction deniers, like that they don't think that this is a reality. Do you face that a lot in your work? Like, or maybe they're not even deniers, it's just that they don't ever think that this is a thing.
Yeah, there are still people who are like that. I mean, I do think there has been a cultural shift
Sure.
in district attorneys' offices. I do think so. I mean, you see that even by the sheer fact that DA's offices now have specialized units, conviction integrity units or conviction review units, thereby acknowledging that wrongful convictions are a thing. I mean,
Yes.
30 years ago, 20 years ago, you didn't have that. So the fact that they are creating these specialized units makes me hopeful. But I've spoken with some prosecutors who have admitted that it can be hard because there are people within their office who think that this is kind of a joke and that all these people are lying. Everyone is saying that they're always innocent. And yeah, you know what? Is there maybe someone who actually did commit a crime and they're saying that they're innocent? Yeah, you know what? Maybe. But guess what? If we as a system are saying that we are going to incarcerate someone, take away their individual liberty, put them in this cell that measures X feet by X feet, and deprive them of all the joys that the rest of us are able to enjoy, we should be pretty certain that they did actually commit a crime. And by the way, this is not to go into the whole fact of the criminal justice system in general and the carceral system and how terrible that is. We're just going with, all right, were you innocent or were you guilty? But you know what? If you're going to say that you're going to incarcerate someone, you should really be certain about that. I think that that is an awesome responsibility that prosecutors have, that criminal defense lawyers have, civil rights lawyers have, judges have, jurors have. And we need to take that really serious. And I don't think that everyone does, because they can't imagine themselves in those shoes.
And I love that you bring the jurors into this conversation because I think there are a lot of people not trained in law who don't realize how widespread the problem is. And do you ever have that conversation, like just with non lawyers?
Oh, yes, I do. I do. I mean, part of the problem too is look at like the media. You know, you have all these shows like NYPD Blue, Cops, whatever. All these shows, they're always showing prosecutors in one way and like Law and
I
Order.
was going to say Law and Order, Criminal Minds, and yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And guess what? It's most often from the point of view of the prosecutors. And by the way, this is not to say that, oh, all prosecutors are doing wrong. No, of course not. But what I'm saying is that there are very few portrayals of criminal defense lawyers, civil rights lawyers, folks who have been wrongfully convicted in the media. So, I mean, from a young age, we're just exposed to this image, this portrayal that someone committed a crime. They're being thrown in jail. This is what's supposed to happen. This is okay. This is a punishment they deserve. And tied it up with a perfect bow. Let's move on. You're not exposed to the idea of wrongful convictions. You're not exposed to the fact that, yes, a horrible crime may have happened, but you have the wrong person and therefore you are committing another heinous act. Um, I remember having a debate with a friend years ago about wrongful conviction work. And he was like, "What are you talking about? You want to let all these rapists out? You want to say that this is okay? Like you're saying that if there's a child rapist, you want to just let them go?" And I always love how when you engage in these kind of debates with people, they'll always go to like the most extreme.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we have to take a step back and realize that mistakes happen. And we know that by the explosion of exonerations that happened when DNA testing became a thing. And we
Yes.
have to realize that DNA evidence isn't always available. So there are some people who get the lucky break because there happened to be DNA, but there are many people who don't have the benefit of DNA. So they're still languishing in prison. You have to conceive of the possibility that a wrong was committed, especially when we're given the data. I mean, the National Registry of Exonerations, which collects and publishes data about known exonerations in the United States, and they found that as of 1989, there were over 3,700 exonerations.
Yes. Yeah, and it's something like 43,000 plus years lost.
Yes.
That's how many wrongful years were served or how many years were served by the wrong person.
Yeah.
And it's so funny that you mentioned this because I have very similar experiences all the time where people are just like, wow, you're really into this work, but aren't you just talking about people who are getting out on a technicality or maybe they didn't do that, but they did something else? And I'm like, no, this is not technicality work. This is not questionable guilt. This is the wrong person. They did not do this. They should not be serving this time. If they did something else, fine, then you try them for that. But the crime we're talking about, not them. And we've proven it's not them.
Hmm.
It couldn't be them. And people are just like, I find that hard to believe that we would make that many mistakes. And I'm like, because you were raised on Law and Order and Bones and NCIS and whatever else, where, the defense lawyer is the sleazy lawyer and the prosecutor is the righteous one, and the forensics are always spot on, although futuristic in their own right.
Uh-huh.
And
There are these TV shows about like civil rights and criminal defense lawyers and exonerees. My goodness.
apparently it doesn't make good TV, right?
Right?
Because if it did, there'd be a bunch of those series, I'm sure.
Yes,
So
everyone will be crying because it's a very sad subject.
it is. It really is. And, I think the closest we came to that was Making a Murderer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I know my phone exploded when people started watching that, and they're like, "Oh my god, can you believe that this happened?" I'm like, "Yep.
Yeah.
This happens all the time, people." And it was a little bit of a reckoning, but then it was a flash in the pan,
Mhm.
and typical media interest, the wave passes and they're on to the next
Mhm.
whatever it was, like Tiger King or whatever it was
Uh-huh.
at the time.
Oh, I haven't thought about that in so long. Wow.
Right? It's interesting that there is this kind of disconnect between what's actually happening and then what people realize. And I think this also raises the question of, do you think the public often loses sight of the human side of justice? Because, I mean, the law is so set on finalities. It wants an answer and it wants the case closed and move on. And so I think we get trained to forget that
Yeah.
these are people we're dealing with.
I completely agree about people wanting to move on. They don't want to believe that there was an error by the government, that there was an error committed by the system. I mean, how scary would it be to feel like, wait, you put the wrong person in jail, and wait, the actual murderer, the actual rapist is running out on the streets? That's not a pleasant thought to have.
We're all raised to trust the system and to believe
Exactly.
that it catches the bad guys. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
So you want to believe in your head that everything is neat and tidy. So yeah, if someone told you that this person went to jail, you're like, all right, the right person must have gone to jail. Let's go. And so you're already approaching it with this bias towards believing that, of course, the right thing happened. And then to be confronted with the fact that another heinous act was committed on this innocent person who didn't commit this crime. And what's supposed to be done about that? They spent decades in prison for something they didn't do. They get reduced so many times. They're like, okay, you spent this number in prison. Maybe you brought this civil suit. So you got this settlement. But what is that settlement? What does that jury verdict represent? So let's say you got $10 million. What is that in exchange for all the Christmases you missed, all the birthday parties you missed, all the years that you missed seeing your child grow up, your mother age? I
Or
mean,
even having children. If you
yes,
went in as a child yourself, like some exonerees go in when they're 17, 18 years old, they don't have
yes,
a family, and then they come out and they're like 50 or pushing 50. Like,
yes,
they're not gonna start a family while they're trying to get reacclimated to the now sci-fi world that they've walked into.
yes. One of my clients, James Irons, he was arrested when he was 18 years old, just 18 years old. That's a child.
Yes.
For a murder he did not commit. This case involved so much official misconduct. It was by these two incredibly corrupt New York City Police Department detectives, Louis Scarcella and Stephen Camille, who have gained infamy in recent years for having engaged in incredible misconduct. And their names are tied. Louis Scarcella has been tied to about 20 convictions that have been vacated. Like,
Wow.
yeah, about 20 or so. And if there are 20, who knows how many others there might be.
Those are the 20 we know of.
Exactly, exactly. So James was arrested when he was 18. He spent almost 27 years before
Oh,
the formative years, his young adulthood, his adulthood. He didn't get to live. His mother passed away while he was incarcerated. And so what do you do when you tell him, okay, you're now exonerated, we're supposed to celebrate? How are you supposed to celebrate this injustice that shouldn't have happened in the first place? Every
yeah,
exoneration is
yeah.
bittersweet because ideally the exoneration shouldn't happen. We shouldn't even have to be here.
Yes. And this is such a great point that you raise because I think it gets lost on a lot of people because you think, hooray, we got an exoneration. Let's throw a party. Okay, but let's look at what that exoneration represents.
Yes.
30 some years in prison and essentially a wasted life.
Yes.
Or it's not a wasted life, wasted potential.
Yes, it's certainly a lost life. There was a lot that was lost. And yes,
Yes.
maybe they were able to maintain relationships. Maybe they were able to get vocational training. Maybe they were able to do things. And that's amazing. But there was so much more that they could have been able to do. And there were so many things that they didn't even have the option of being able to do because it was robbed from them. So
Yes.
that's not justice. That's not justice if they were exonerated. Justice was forever lost the day they were arrested and then wrongfully convicted and then sent to prison.
Yes. And this kind of brings me back to earlier conversation we were having about wrongful conviction deniers and people who say that it's not really a thing. My favorite, and I say this, of course, sarcastically, are those who say that wrongful convictions are proof that the system works,
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. What?
right?
I
Because
my goodness.
because well, it's not the wrongful conviction, it's the exoneration. But again, the exoneration only comes about because there was a wrongful conviction. But this proves the system works because the system sorted itself out and the error was uncovered and we've miraculously restored justice,
No.
et
Yeah.
cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, no, because we shouldn't even be here in the first place. If the
Exactly.
system worked, we wouldn't even know what the word exoneration meant.
Yes. A
We
correction.
would have exactly 0 exonerees.
Yes.
Eh,
I wish the number were 0. I wish that there were no exonerations. I wish we didn't have to do this because a correction of a wrong does not negate the wrong. There is no joy in saying, all right, well, we cleared it. We finally believe you.
yeah,
What?
It's not like you have a magic eraser that you can take all that time away and put them back to 18 years old and, okay, now go live your life the way you should have.
Mhm,
The world has gone on and things are forever different. And like you said, you never even had the opportunity to decide if you wanted to be part of any of that. Those decisions were made for you.
mhm.
Every decision was made for you.
Yeah.
And then you just get thrown back out into the world and most of the times not even an apology to accompany it.
Oh, yeah, exactly. They're like, "Okay, guess what? We took all these years from you. We just caused so much trauma on you. Let's not even talk about all the PTSD that people are now forced to experience, but you're just released out into the world. What prep? With what support? With
Yeah,
what?"
and again, the twisted logic because and I always say this to my students, with the wrongfully convicted, the
Mm.
doors of the prison are swung open
Oh,
and you're told, "Go on." And the whole logic behind it is, well, you shouldn't have been here in the first place, so you don't deserve the tools that we're giving to the actual people who served their sentences rightfully, for lack of a better term.
oh my goodness. Yeah.
Like, that's perverse, and it's one of those, like, just mental gymnastic things, and again, I think it speaks to a huge undercurrent in wrongful conviction work is the lack of accountability
Mm-hmm.
and
Yes.
the lack of admitting that maybe something fell off the rails here.
The government was what put you in, the state, the people of New York, the people of wherever. You have a responsibility to do whatever to bring at least some semblance of justice. And I'll always call it semblance of justice because,
Sure.
again, this should have never happened in the first place.
Yep.
But you have to be held accountable for the role that you played in
Yeah.
robbing a life from someone.
Yeah. And I think one of the most, I don't even know what the word is. It's shocking, it's moving, it's touching, it's infuriating all at the same time. One of the things I've learned by attending the Innocence Network conferences and sitting in on a bunch of the sessions is that the exonerees themselves have taken it upon themselves to create support groups for other exonerees who come out. Like, oh my God, I have so much respect and appreciation for the exonerees who have the strength to do that
Yeah.
because I'm not sure that I would after
Mhm,
having spent X amount of years in
mhm.
prison to come out. I'd probably want to just hide in a hole somewhere because that's all I've known for the past however many years. But the fact that this responsibility is now being put on the exonerees themselves to support fellow exonerees,
Yeah.
what kind of world is that?
I know it's so frustrating because there isn't a perfect model and there won't ever be a perfect model of providing the right comprehensive support that exonerees need because
Correct.
yes, you need legal help, you need a lawyer to help you file the civil suit and so forth. You also need financial help. You need a financial advisor to help teach you have
Yes.
financial savvy because again, if you were thrown in prison when you were 18 years old and you've been released now exonerated 30 years later, have you even had a credit card? Do you know how to build credit? So you need someone to help you with that.
Do you know how to spend money?
Exactly,
You know
exactly.
how to save money.
Yeah,
Like,
and if you also get millions of dollars for the suit, are you going to be able to know how to use that to help set you up for the rest of your life instead of
that's
just
it.
blowing it all up? And then you need mental health support.
100%.
The fact that not every exoneree is automatically the state should be responsible for giving everyone a financial advisor and a therapist.
Yeah, that's like bare minimum,
Yes.
but I agree with you
Yes.
so much. And before I get way too angry to up in my blood, I see that we're pretty much at time again today. But this again has been so great. And I really appreciate you and taking the time to speak with me because I think this has just been really enlightening from a different perspective.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here and so appreciative of you creating this platform so that you're able to get different voices from the wrongful conviction world, including the most important from the exonerees themselves. So thank you so much.
And while today's letter may have piqued your interest, this is only part of the story. There's still so much more to tell. The effects of wrongful convictions are far-reaching. They touch us all. I'll write to you again soon as I continue my conversations with those whose lives have been impacted by a wrongful conviction. But until then, I remain wrongfully yours. And if today's episode resonated with you, please consider sharing it with others, liking and following the podcast on your favorite platforms so you don't miss what comes next. And as always, thank you for listening to Wrongfully Yours, where we believe that telling these stories is the first step towards preventing the next injustice. And until next time, stay curious, stay hopeful, and keep fighting for justice. If you have something that you want to talk about with me, or even if you want to just send me some words of encouragement, you can drop me a line at wrongfullyyourspodcast@gmail.com. You can also check out my website, kellylozon.ca, for more information about me and the kinds of things that I do.